Alright, today's lesson is 5-8, and our objectives for today are to be able to change slope-intercept form to standard form, change point-slope form to slope-intercept form, and given a point and slope, write a linear equation in point, slope, slope-intercept, and standard forms. So basically we're just changing the way things look today into different forms. Alright, there are three forms for writing a linear equation. The first one is point-slope. That one's y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Go ahead and write down everything on this slide. So you need to have point slope form, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. That's point slope form. A couple things about point slope form is m is the slope, x1 and y1 are a given ordered pair. Please also make sure that you have that written. The next one is slope intercept form. And that's just y equals mx plus b. That's the one that we're most used to. M is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And then finally there's standard form. And standard form is kind of a newer form that you guys don't see a whole lot. And it's not really used all that much either, but we are going to look at that today. So it's ax plus by equals c. A, B, and C are integers, and A is positive. So again, you have to have everything here, the green, the purple, and the red, all written down on your paper before you move on. So if you need to pause the video to do that, please do.
Alright, so for the first couple of problems, we're going to look at changing from one form to the next. So for number 1, it's telling us to change from slope-intercept form. And we're going to abbreviate that with SIF. And SIF is y equals mx plus b. You can go ahead and write that down. To standard form. And standard form, again, like you just wrote down, is ax plus by equals c. It's important here that your A, your B, and your C are capital letters because they are distinctly different from variables like the lowercase a, b, or c. Number 1 is y equals 4x minus 7. Y equals 4x minus 7 is in slope-intercept form. Okay, this is my m, this is my b. It's in slope-intercept form, which is what I was given in the question. And I have to change it to standard form, so I have to get my ax plus by equals c in that order. The first thing I'm going to do is move my ax, or my 4x, to the other side so it can come in the front. I have to subtract 4x on both sides in order to move it. Those cancel, and that gives me negative 4x plus y equals negative 7. Now keep in mind here that negative 4x and y are not like terms, so I can't combine them at this point. I've got my ax plus by equals c. You can tell that my b in front of my y would be the understood 1 there. The only problem with what I've got here is that a cannot be negative. Cannot be negative. So in order to change it from negative to positive, I have to multiply the whole thing times negative 1. The negative 1 goes to the negative 4, making it positive 4x. The negative 1 goes to the y, making it negative 1y. The negative 1 goes to the negative 7, making it positive 7. So it changes the sign of everything inside the parentheses. Again, giving me 4x minus 1y equals 7. Same thing as saying 4x minus y equals 7, and this is in standard form. ax plus by equals c. Make sure you have all of that down before you move on. Alright, number 2 is asking us to change from slope-intercept form, again, SIF, to standard form. So that's ax plus by equals C. Sorry, that's kind of ugly there. AX plus BY equals C, and again, slope-intercept form is Y equals MX plus B. All right, the problem for number 2 is Y equals negative 2/5 X minus 3. So just like in the last one, I have to add my 2/5 X to both sides. I'm not freaking out because it's a fraction. Doesn't change it. It's no different in any way. Now over here, I'm going to have 2/5 X plus Y. Again, they are not like terms. They cannot be combined. 2/5 X plus Y equals negative 3. And now my A is positive, which is good. That's what I needed it to be in the last one. However, not only can it not be positive, it can't be a fraction. So in order to get this to not be a fraction anymore, we have to multiply everything in the problem by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply everything in the problem by 5, and that's going to cancel there, and it's going to give me 5y and negative 15. So it becomes 2x, because I canceled my denominator of 5, plus 5y equals, and then 5 times negative 3 is going to give me negative 15. And this is in standard form. And again, that's ax plus by equals c. And a, b, and c cannot be fractions, and a must be positive. Make sure you have all of that down before you move on. All right, number 3 is y equals 7 over 3x plus 6. Y equals 7 over 3x plus 6. And number 3 is asking me again, that is a 6 and not a b, I'm sorry. Number 3 is asking me again to change it from slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, to standard form, ax plus by equals c. So the first thing I have to do is subtract my 7 over 3x from both sides. And that's going to give me negative 7 over 3x plus y equals 6. This is very similar to both problems 1 and 2. If you feel comfortable at this point, I want you to pause the video and try to work this one out on your own. Okay, hopefully you've tried to go ahead and work it out on your own. If you didn't feel comfortable with that, then you're probably just waiting on me to keep going with it. So very quickly, let's just finish this one up. I have a negative and a fraction for my a. It cannot be negative or a fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of both that negative and that fraction at the same time. Instead of just multiplying by the denominator like I did in the last problem, I'm going to multiply by the denominator, but I'm going to do it as a negative 3. So I'm going to multiply by a negative 3, which is going to cancel both the 3 in the denominator and the negative. So it's going to give me 7x. When I multiply the y times a negative 3, it's going to give me negative 3y. And when I multiply the 6 times a negative 3, it's going to give me negative 18. And this is in ax plus by equals c, or standard form. Make sure that you have all of that down before you move on. All right, so now you know how to change from slope-intercept form to standard form. The next thing we're going to look at is changing from point-slope form to slope-intercept form. All right, so in number 4, we are changing from point-slope form, which is written y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, to slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Number 4 says y minus 3 equals 1/4, open parentheses, x plus 12, close parentheses. All we have to do really and truly here is just simplify this out. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute our 1/4, which is going to give us 1/4 x plus 3. And then I'm going to bring down my y minus 3. Now I'm going to add 3 on both sides because, again, I'm just solving for y, and we're not asking you to do anything here that we haven't already been doing. This is going to cancel. I'm going to bring down my y, my 1/4 x, and then 3 plus 3 gives me 6. So this is now in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So I started with point slope and turned it into slope-intercept form. And again, this is really, really simple stuff. This is just solving for y. Make sure you have all that down before you move on. All right, number 5 again is asking us to change from point slope form to slope-intercept form. Number 5 is y plus 9 equals -1, open parentheses, x minus 4. If you feel comfortable with this one, go ahead and pause the video here and try this one on your own. All right, hopefully you've paused the video and tried this one on your own. We're going to go ahead and work it out. -1 times x is going to give me -1x. -1 times -4 is going to give me +4. I'm going to bring down my y and my +9. I'm going to subtract 9 on both sides. This is going to cancel here, and here it's going to give me -5. I'm going to bring down my -1x, my equal sign, and my y. And I have y equals -1x minus 5. That could also be written as y equals -x minus 5. Make sure that you have all of that down. You can see here that this is now in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, so I have completed the objective for the problem. All right, so now we've looked at how to change point slope form to slope-intercept form, and now you're going to look at, given a point and a slope, writing a linear equation in point slope, slope-intercept, and standard form. So we're going to go ahead and combine all 3 now.
All right, go ahead and write down number 6. We have a slope of -3 and the point 0, -2. And our instructions say, given the point and slope, write a linear equation in point slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard. Well, since we're given the slope and a point, we have to start with point slope. So here, we're going to go ahead and say that our slope is our m, and then our point is our x1, y1. So go ahead and make sure that you have those labeled. So we're going to go ahead and start with point slope form, which says y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And we're going to go ahead and plug in the information that we have here. We're going to plug in our m, our x1, and our y1. So we're going to say y minus -2 equals -3 for our m, parentheses, x minus 0. Okay, so that's our point slope form. So we're going to label that over here, and we're going to say that that's point slope form, so PSF for short, so that we don't have to keep writing that. Point slope form. Now we're going to change it from point slope to slope intercept. And to do this, these two negatives right here are going to become a positive. So anytime you have negative, negative, it just becomes a positive. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. I also need to distribute this -3. So y plus 2 equals -3x. And if you want to, you can go ahead and say plus 0 on the end. Then we want to get it in y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept form. So we need to get the y by itself. So we're going to subtract the 2 from both sides. We end up with y equals -3x minus 2. So there's my slope-intercept form. And I know it's in slope-intercept form because it looks like y equals mx plus b. And the y is solved for. So this is our slope-intercept form. So we're going to call that SIF for slope-intercept form. So again, so we don't have to keep writing that over and over. So we have our point-slope form, our slope-intercept form. Now we're going to go to standard. And standard says that it wants the x and the y both on the left-hand side. So I'm going to move the x to be over here with the y. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. And with standard form, that's the ax. Whoops. What we're trying to get through is standard, which is the ax plus by equals c. So this is standard, so we want the x first. So I'm going to list the x first. 3x plus y equals -2. Make sure you bring that down. It's a -2. And now we have to check with standard form and make sure that there are no fractions and to make sure a is not negative. So here our a is positive, so we're good there. And there are no fractions in here, so we're good to stop right there with standard form. And I'm going to shorten that to just SF for standard form. I'm also going to go back through and put boxes around all three of my different forms to make sure I have them all. Okay. And also when you go to check your answers in class tomorrow, it'll make it much easier to check those if you have them boxes or circles or something around them so that you can see exactly what it is that you're looking at. Take a minute and make sure you have all that written down before you move on. All right, here's number 7. Go ahead and write it down. Slope equals 2, and you have the point 3, 1. Again, our instructions are the same here. We're going to, given the point and slope, we're going to write an equation in point slope, slope intercept, and standard. And again, we have to start with point slope because we're given a point and the slope. We're going to label these. M is your 2. And then your x1, y1 is your point. And we're going to go ahead and plug those into our point slope formula. So we're going to say y minus y1 is 1 equals our 2 parentheses x minus 3. And if you need to look back at that form to see how to plug things in, that's fine. So y minus 1 equals 2, x minus 3. So that is our point slope form. So we're going to call that PSF for short. Now we're going to go from point slope form to slope intercept by distributing our 2. And we're going to say y minus 1 equals 2x minus 6. Please make sure that you distribute all the way through. 2 times 3 here is 6. So make sure that you distribute to the 3 as well. Then I need to get the y by itself, so I'm going to move that 1. So I'm going to add the 1 to both sides, and I get y equals 2x. And then minus 5, because -6 plus 1 is 5. So our y is by itself, and this looks like y equals mx plus b. So there's our slope-intercept form. And again, I'm going to write that out to the side so I know what form it is that I'm looking at. Now we want to go from slope-intercept to standard. So I need to move that x back over to the left with the y. So I'm going to subtract it because it's positive. And we're going to write the x first, so I'm going to say -2x. The y is positive, so plus y equals -5 because it was minus 5. Now, it looks like I'm just about finished. This looks like standard form. However, again, there's two things I have to check with standard. I have to make sure that there's not a negative here, and there is, so we're going to have to get rid of that negative. I also need to make sure that there are no fractions, and there's not any fractions here. I just need to get rid of the negative. So I'm going to multiply everything in here by -1. So when I multiply everything by -1, it changes all my signs, and I end up with a positive 2x minus y equals a positive 5. And now I have it in complete standard form, so I'm going to write SF to show standard form because my a is positive and there are no fractions anywhere in here. And again, I'm going to go through and put boxes around all of my forms to make checking it easier. That way I know exactly which one I need to be looking at for which form. So there's number 7. Please make sure you have it written down before you move on. All right, here's number 9. Go ahead and write it down. Our slope equals -1/4, and we're given the point 8, -3. Again, here our instructions are the same. We're given the point and slope. We're going to write it in point slope, slope intercept, and standard, all three. So again, we need to label these. This is my m, is my -1/4, and my x1, y1. I promise it'll keep you from making silly mistakes if you'll go through and actually label those first. So now I'm going to start plugging them into point slope. Y minus y1, here's -3, equals -1/4, parentheses, x minus 8. So that is my point slope form, or again PSF for short. All right, now we're going to change it to slope intercept. We're going to change these two negatives that I see here. Go ahead and change those to a positive. And I'm going to distribute my -1/4. So I'm going to say y plus 3 equals -1/4 times x is -1/4 x. -1/4 times -8 is a +2. And if you need to change this to plus and -8 to see that it's a negative times a negative, feel free to do that. Now to finish getting the y by itself, I need to move that 3. It's +3, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I end up with y equals -1/4 x minus 1, because 2 minus 3 is -1. So now my y is by itself. It looks like y equals mx plus b, so I have my slope intercept form, or SIF. So there's my two forms. Now I just need to go to standard. So standard means I need to take this x and move it over to the other side. It's a positive, or it's a -1/4 x, so I'm going to add 1/4 x to both sides. And again, I list the x first. So 1/4 x plus y equals -1. Now again, this looks like standard, but again, the two things we have to check for standard are no fractions and the a can't be negative. Now the a is positive, but however I have a fraction, so I need to get rid of that fraction. Anytime I need to get rid of a fraction, I'm going to multiply by the denominator or the bottom of the fraction. So here I'm going to multiply everything in here by 4 because that's the denominator. And again, I'm going to multiply everything, so if you need to draw arrows to remind yourself to make sure that you multiply by everything, feel free to do that. And this just leaves me with x, or 1x, plus 4y equals -4. And again, I don't actually need this 1 right here, so I can actually write this as x plus 4y equals -4. And this is standard form. The a is not negative, and I don't have any fractions. So we have point slope, slope intercept, and standard form. Make sure you have all that written before you move on. Alright, this is number 9. We're going to write an equation in all three forms described by the graph. So we're going to make this a little bit more difficult. They're giving us a graph and telling us to write an equation in all three forms. So take a minute and pause the video and go ahead and draw you a sketch of this graph on your paper. You can just do it on notebook paper, it's fine. Hopefully you've had a minute to go ahead and draw you a sketch of this. What we have to do first here is to be able to put it in point slope form, we need a point and we need the slope. We have 2 points here, but we don't have the slope, so we're going to have to count the slope. Here's my grid here. We need to count the rise over the run to come up with our slope. So I'm going to start at this point up here and figure out what do I have to do to get to this point down here. So I always go up or down first because that's my rise. And it says this example is like number 9 and number 10 on your assignment for tomorrow. So I have to go down to get from the left point to the right point, and then I have to go to the right. I have to go down 6, so that's -6, and I go to the right 3, so that's +3. So my slope is -6/3, which divided out gives me -2. So I have a slope of -2, which is my m, and I can pick either one of these points for my x1, y1. I'm going to go ahead and pick this top one. I'm going to go ahead and pick this top point right here and label it x1, y1, and then my m is over here. So I can go ahead and put these into point slope. And I can say y minus 3, which is my y1, equals -2, that's my m or my slope that I found over here, parentheses x minus, and then -2 is my x1. And again, I could have also picked this point down here and done the same thing. Does not matter which point you pick. So here's my point slope form. Now I need to change it to slope intercept. So I'm going to distribute, and I went ahead here and said these two negatives make a positive. And then I distribute -2 times x is -2x, -2 times 2 is -4. You could write that as -4 or plus -4, does not matter. I'm going to move the 3 so that my y is by itself, and I get y equals -2x minus 1, and that's my slope intercept form. And just like on the other examples, I'm fine with you going ahead and just putting this as PSF and SIF for slope intercept form. You can abbreviate those. So we have point slope form, we have slope intercept form. Now I need standard, so we need to move that x over. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides, and I get 2x plus y equals -1. And that is in true standard form because the a is not negative, and I don't have any fractions anywhere in here, so I can go ahead and leave this. And again, you can just put SF right here for standard form. So we have point slope, slope intercept, and standard all here. Go ahead and make sure you have all that written down before you move on. All right, we do have one more example, but it's a real-world example, so we will do that one in class tomorrow. We've now looked at all three objectives. We can change slope intercept form to standard. We can change point slope form to slope intercept form. And given a point and a slope, we can write a linear equation in point slope, slope intercept, and standard form. This is the end of your video. Thank you for watching.